meeting. So if people do have the opportunity, the red button has come on. I should also say that we are recording the session because we hope to share lots of really good stuff that people have been doing to support community power and resilience, and to make sure that more people get to hear of it. We'll look at sharing this conversation. So we're recording. So if everybody could, if they can access the chat box, if they can just type in their name. So you're shaking your head at me, Sophie. If you could have a go at that, that'd be great. How many people have we got now then, Caroline? Or Kirsty?
We're up to 61.
61. Do you reckon we should kick off?
I think so, yeah, we're 8 minutes past 6:30.
Yeah, okay. Right, so welcome everybody. I think we might have people joining us. Like I say, originally we were going to do intros and ask people to say what they valued, but if people can just put that in the chat box, that would be great. Thank you for attending our first summer community conversation. We hope this will be a program of conversations that will extend beyond the summer, but just to sort of kick us off, we're starting with three meetings. So the one tonight is entitled Community Power and Resilience. Why is it important to personal and community well-being and how we can support it? The idea for tonight is to give all of us, those people who would like to share, the opportunity to share what they've been doing, maybe as individuals or as groups, to support community power and resilience during the COVID crisis, or even before the COVID crisis, and any ideas they might have for the future. So as a sort of rough agenda for this meeting, this conversation, I'm going to, after I've kind of given a little bit of a background as to how, from my perspective, the council perspective, we've ended up here, is give Caroline Walsh from the Community Connectors team the opportunity to share a little bit about what the Community Connectors are doing, Claire Muir for Population Health, and I think Sarah, I don't know if Sarah Baines is with us yet. Sarah Baines.
I'm here, Alistair. I'm here.
Hello, Sarah.
Like a bad penny.
Integrated Care Communities, and I don't know if Yak's here. Is Yak here?
Yeah, evening, Alistair. Evening, everyone.
Right. Right. As a sort of kick-off, after I've done a bit of a ramble about, as I say, setting the scene, going to give them the opportunity to talk a little bit, just a little bit, about what they've been doing around supporting community power and resilience, and maybe some ideas they have for the future. And then what I'd like to do is give people on this call the opportunity to share what they've been doing, and any ideas they might have for the future. And if we have time, we'll have a little bit of a discussion. We'll see how all this works, to think about what we might do as ideas in the future. So that's the kind of rough agenda for tonight. I think in terms of setting the scene, I'm going to attempt to share something with you. Let's just do this. It would be useful to have it in front of me. There we go. Can people see that in front of them?
Yes.
Somebody tell me that they can. That's great. Okay. All right. So a little bit of background. Prior to COVID, toward the end of last year, it was, well, through the autumn of last year, there was some work done taking forward our council ambitions document. And what you see in front of you is a document that was approved by council in January of this year, which lays out the 4 kind of priorities for Lancaster City Council. As you can see, a sustainable district, inclusive and prosperous local economy, healthy and happy communities, and being a kind, cooperative and responsible council. So those are our 4 kind of priorities, and cutting across all 3 of those priorities are 4 priorities are 3 themes. Following the declaration of a climate emergency in a year last January, the climate emergency remains our primary theme, followed closely by community wealth building, building a sustainable and just local economy, and community engagement. So that's where we were in January this year. And then, as we're all aware, COVID turned up in March. And during the early days of the COVID crisis, we put a lot of thought, and I worked very closely with a number of other cabinet members. I think they're probably on the call tonight, in particular Caroline Jackson and Kevin Freer. And we recognised that in responding to the COVID crisis, we need to reach out and build on the community connections that we had. So pretty much from the, I think, second week of the crisis, the first week of the full lockdown, we initiated a number of community calls. And I think a lot of the people who are here tonight, I don't know because I can't see the participants, but I think a lot of the people that are here tonight may well have participated in those calls. We had a weekly call with people focused on Lancaster, another one led by Kevin Freer focused on our rural parish areas, and another one focused on Morecambe. And we built from there. We pulled together, hosted a meeting for people who were particularly involved in volunteering and mutual aid, and also a well-being meeting. And Caroline Jackson also led on a homelessness advisory group that's meeting every 2 weeks. So those meetings have been going on. There's also been a Lancaster District Food Alliance meeting that's happened, and a number of other meetings. In total, from our perspective, this meeting tonight is the 66th community-facing meeting that we've held in the last 18 weeks. Until recently, those meetings were happening during the day. So one of the reasons for tonight is to open that up a bit, to start having some evening meetings, but it's also to start a conversation. And what you see in front of you is the beginnings of what we're calling Plan 2030, Recovery for a Sustainable, Safe, Socially Just District, Healthy, Connected, Empowered, Enabled. So some work has been happening within the council to identify what we're calling 5 recovery circles that are our, I guess, building on that document, the priorities document I showed you, looking at turning what are possibly quite abstract ambitions and priorities into concrete work streams. So group one at the top here, is the climate emergency. And the intention for each of these circles is to do work internally in the council, and that work is near completion, around clarifying and identifying concrete work streams that deliver against this overarching climate emergency priority theme. The second group is internal. That's essentially our council environment, our finances, our resources, our people. But looking at the climate emergency and the other kind of priorities and ambitions we have, we recognise that the driver for most of that, reducing our emissions to net zero by 2030, doing it as a council, we're on track with that, but that will effectively mean a reduction of 0.4% of our emissions. We need to address our district-wide emissions. We need, in terms of meeting our priorities around being healthy and prosperous, we need to support and enable community. So we've had 2 groups here, one healthy and happy communities with a number of work streams, and the other one, which I kind of lead on with another councillor. Each of these circles has 2 cabinet members attached. Myself and Dave Brooks, we focus on working with officers, supporting them, and working particularly with communities to explore what we can do to support community power and resilience. And the 5th circle, it says group 4 just to confuse things, because we have 3A and 3B, is a regenerative and distributive economy. I mean, effectively, this is our focus on what we can do to create a local community wealth building model. So that's a kind of whistle stop sort of tour of this Plan 2030. Internally, it's a useful tool for us to focus on what we can do and how we can work across departments, different parts of the council, to deliver on these priorities and themes. But more importantly, how we can work with community groups, how we can work with people out there in the community who have similar themes, priorities as us. We all have the climate emergency, and it's reasonable to presume that we all want to support healthy and happy communities and community power, engagement and resilience. So that is Plan 2030, and I'm going to come out of there. Let's just get out of here. I'm back again. We've been working on this. We've done work internally, but this is a plan that we want to be owned by the whole district. We want it to be a plan that we worked together with community groups to deliver. The council is limited in what it can do, and at the heart of all of that, we believe, is a support for initiatives, projects, community groups that support well-being. So this is where we've kind of ended up, and to kind of help that process, tonight is the beginnings of some community conversations. That, I think, is setting the scene. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is hand over to Caroline Walsh, who will say a little bit about what the community connecting team have been doing to support community power and resilience. Over to you, Caroline.
Great, thanks Alistair. So hi everyone, I'm Caroline Walsh, Community Connector Manager, and tonight I'm hopefully not going to bore you too much, but I just thought it might be useful. Some of you may already perhaps know who we are, but I thought I'd take the opportunity just to reach out and show exactly who we are, what we're here to do. I've got a little short video just to show you some of the work we've done, and also just share the work that we've been doing as well as a city council, really coming together throughout COVID to support our communities. So first of all, who are we? Oh, sorry, bear with me a moment. I should just share the right slide if I can. So hopefully you can see what's on my screen. Can somebody just confirm?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, Kirsty. I can't see anybody, so thank you. So yeah, so we are the community connectors. So there's myself, Jamie Murphy, and Paula Doherty, and we've also got a latest addition to the team, Keely Wilkinson, who is our young person engagement officer, who's joined us throughout the pandemic. So it's great to have Keely on board, and it's already starting to make some connections out within our communities. What our role here is to do is to really, we were here to, and we still are here, to connect, re-engage and support our communities and our residents, and to really work with them on what matters to them and what's important to them, as well as look at what it is that Lancaster City Council do across our district and really promote all the great things that happen right across lots of different services. We're really here to focus on strengthening and working with and alongside our communities, but definitely not here to take over. This is for what you want to do, and you perhaps might need a little bit of help and support, or you might not need anything at all from us, but we wanted you to know that we're here to help and to support you. So just before COVID, we started to do just that. We started to connect with people, and most importantly, community groups, organisations and residents. So we really reached out to quite a lot of different organisations. We've got on their community centres, community groups. We started to engage with parish councils, schools, colleges, universities, to make lots of different connections to understand how we can support our communities, and to understand what it is they would like our support with. Just before COVID, we were actually also featured in the Council Matters magazine as well, and that was going to be our soft launch out to our residents as well, to say that we're here, and we're willing now to be able to come forward and say that we're able to support and help on what matters to them. So just to give you a little bit of a feel for what we've achieved from reaching out to them, I just want to show a very quick video of a couple of things that we've worked with our communities for them to achieve, and also to support other council services as well to achieve. So hopefully this should work. So I'll just reiterate, that was obviously before the pandemic, and that was just some of the things that our community had reached out to us from the connections that we made and asked for our help and support with. And like I say, we were just about to reach out to residents as well to understand exactly how we can support them further. So our work throughout the pandemic, you'll see on screen, we've got some of our COVID champions who over the last sort of 5 months have really worked hard right across the district to make sure that we look after our communities and support them. And as Alistair's mentioned there as well about the connections that we've made, the councillors being able to set up those community groups, which hopefully helped them to feel more connected and more supported as well throughout what have been strange and probably difficult times for quite a few of us. So we had there's actually 136, I know it said 126 on there, but we did go up. We had 136 employees across the council redeployed from lots of different council services, all coming together to work to help our residents, from which we managed to successfully reach out and contact 28,372 residents. That number is slightly higher because we had a lot of calls and emails coming in through our community hub. So I think it's fair to say, you know, we really did try to reach out to as many as we possibly could of our vulnerable residents. So supporting our residents beyond COVID, that's what we're very much here to do. And obviously we've got the start of the community conversations, which is absolutely fantastic. So we just like to look at how we can support our communities, and we're starting to think as a council as well about how we can do things differently, and how we can make it easier for our communities to connect with us. So a couple of thoughts around that, and again we can probably open this up to our conversation, is starting to look at how do we make our services more accessible. So perhaps looking at taking our services out to residents, so what customer services, going at times that are convenient for them, and talking about issues and concerns that they have within their areas, really making it personal to them. Continue the community conversations. No, Alistair touched on that as well. So we're continuing those conversations on a monthly basis for the parish council community groups and partners, which the councillors are leading on. And then we really want to work with our communities to achieve what is important to us. So my final thing I'll just say is, if there is anything at all that you think that we can support with, obviously we're going to have a bit of a conversation, but after the meeting, if you wish to get in touch, please do so. Our email address is on the screen, and yes, thank you very much. I'll pop it in the chat box as well. Back to you, Alistair.
Thank you, Caroline. Yeah, if people do have any questions, if they can stick it in the chat box, and we'll attempt to see if we can address them or respond later. Yeah. So in terms of those community conversations, like I say, it really opened things up, and we connected to lots of different people. And this program of community conversations is a direct result of that connecting. And we've been particularly talking to our colleagues in health, and all the way through this with CVS. So what I'd like to do now is give Claire Muir, who's the Population Health Transformation and Change Lead, the opportunity to share a few thoughts around what might be a new deal for the Morecambe Bay area. Do you want me to put your PowerPoint up, Claire?
Yes, please. Yeah, I'll remove my camera if it starts to. Sometimes my connection isn't great,
Okay,
but yeah, that'd be brilliant if that's okay.
Here we go.
So hi everyone, as Alice has said, I'm Claire Muir, so I'm the Population Health Transformation and Change Lead at Morecambe Bay CCG. So that is an absolute mouthful. So just going to be introducing the concept of a bit of a deal today, and this is something that we are looking to work with, and when I say we, I mean health, councils, public sector organisations, and it's about working with the community to really drive this forwards. So could you move on to the next slide? Thank you. So you might have heard of the Wigan deal. So it's very much what we're doing here is what we're wanting to learn from what happened in Wigan. So essentially, the Wigan deal is an informal agreement between the council and everybody who lives or works there, and it's basically how they can work together to create a better borough. So the council committed to a series of pledges, and in return, residents and businesses play their part as well. So, oh,
Right.
it's all right.
So I go back.
Just back for a second, if that's all right. So as you can see on the screen there, there's just some examples of our part, and that was it was very much led by the council in Wigan. We're doing it more of a partnership approach, but still led by the council. And then the your part, so what the residents can do. And the deals had a great impact for Wigan. So now, just for an example, they've got the second lowest council tax rates in the whole of Greater Manchester. And in return for that, residents are recycling more, volunteering in the community, using online services. So it's basically just how to make it a world-class place to live from an organisation perspective and also from a community perspective. So if we can move on to the next one, please, Alistair. So this kind of deal, like the Wigan deal, is all about empowering communities and enabling them to do what they do best. And I suppose key to this is finding out what makes residents happy, focusing on their strengths and talents. And that's been made very clear throughout the whole of the COVID epidemic, which I'm sure everyone here is aware of, and as Caroline has touched on there. So in Wigan, they did a big listening project to work with local people and develop this concept of a deal. What we're looking to do in Lancaster is slightly different in that we're already aware that so many fantastic conversations are already happening within all areas of the community. So we really want to make the most of these and work in partnership with these conversations that are already happening. So what we're really looking to do is maintaining a consistent and open dialogue with our communities and really listen deeply, as Andy Knox continuously says, and it's that real, true, deep listening. And it's about listening at every given opportunity, regardless of who owns the conversation, who's running it. For example, if it's a conversation led by the council, like this evening, or it might be a conversation out there in the community groups in schools or workplaces. It's just how we can really have meaningful conversations and capture it, and then letting that information really feed into drafting some sort of deal, or as Alistair was saying, can feed into things like the 2030 plan. It's really not. It's not a one-off project. We definitely don't want it to be a one-off project. It's an open dialogue that'll move towards a social movement, really. So as you can see on the screen there, we've got a nice little tree. So as part of this initiative, it would be fantastic if all of the community conversations that are out there happening. So as we've got the roots there, so we've got some happening in schools, some in the community, some organised by health, some organised by the council. If all of those conversations, which are happening anyway, can have some sort of structure to them, and all that information isn't just being duplicated everywhere, all these conversations, and it can feed into something central that can then continuously form and shape a sort of deal, but also all partner organisations can have access to that and can be using that information to shape absolutely everything that they're working on, from the integrated care communities, from the council to health, absolutely everybody. So yeah, it's the deal, and that's, it's, again, we can't reiterate enough, it's not a one-off project, it's that open dialogue to inform absolutely everything. So then just to finish, is just to say that we have to acknowledge we're at the very, very beginning of this work and this initiative, but it's absolutely right that that's where we're at, because it would be completely wrong if we were halfway through this initiative when actually what's vital to this is the community and working with people. So it's great that we're at the start, because we really need to be working in partnership. And I suppose my number one thing is that in Wigan, their first step for this great work that they did was mobilising the community. Well, we're already ahead of that here, because, with no disrespect to Wigan, but the community here has mobilised themselves. So essentially it's just working with everybody, capturing those great conversations and really let it inform what we do and having that partnership together. So that is a very quick whistle-stop tour. If you would like any more information or to get involved in any of this further, my email address was on there and I'll pop it in the chat box. But just for example, everything that's been put in the in the chat today, that sort of thing can feed into the idea of a tree, and people can access this sort of information and can really know what the community wants.
That's great. Thank you, Claire. Yeah, and if, as I say, people have just ideas, things that have popped into their head, just reactions to what's being said, if they can just put that in the chat box, and will be an opportunity to say things in a little bit. I'm just trying to warm me up a little bit by getting some of our partners to talk a little bit about some ideas. And I think to maintain the health theme, I think Sarah was going to say a little bit around the work of the integrated care communities. Is that right?
That's true. I'm here. Hi, and for those that I've not met before, hello, I'm Sarah Baines, and I'm the development lead for Lancaster Integrated Care Community, which is also known as an ICC. And Claire just alluded to it in her talk. I'm a little bit, I feel a bit cheated because Jess told me I couldn't do a presentation, which I'd done. But anyway, I have got one that I can share in the chat box. So I'll rattle through quickly what ICCs are and what we've been doing. So they're an NHS initiative that was set up over 5 years ago now by the NHS to try and relieve pressures predominantly at the beginning on the NHS system locally in Morecambe Bay, just because the pressures were unsustainable for the services that we've got. So the idea was for, there's actually 4 of us employed in the ICC in Lancaster. It varies across the patch depending on how big the area is. There's 8 care communities right across Morecambe Bay. Lancaster is 1. And the idea is that we work better together with partners, with our community, with community groups, with residents, absolutely anybody, to basically try and improve the health and well-being of our community, which then in turn, hopefully, somewhere down the line, will relieve pressures on the health system and also all other public services. So if you are registered anywhere with a GP in Morecambe Bay, you will automatically belong to an integrated care community. If you're interested in learning more about them, I'll put my email in the chat. You can let me know and I can put you in touch with the development lead from your particular ICC. So in North Lancashire, we've got Carnforth. In Morecambe, we've got Bay ICC, and Lancaster, we've got Lancaster ICC. So there's 3 in the North Lancashire patch. Particularly around COVID and this period over the last sort of 4 to 5 months, what we've done lots of initiatives over the last 4 years, and I can share those with you via the presentation in the chat box in a minute. Particularly around COVID, we have been working with the emergency response line with Hope Church in collaboration with CVS and the council to try and support the volunteers the amazing volunteers that have stepped up, absolutely hundreds and thousands of them over the last few months, to support our community to keep their health and well-being ticking over and improved. So we've been supporting them from a health perspective if they've come across people that they're worried about, they've got concerns about their physical health, their mental health. We've been supporting the volunteers to support those people. We're also working or looking to going beyond COVID, hopefully keeping that going. And we're just working out at the moment with all our partners that we're looking at it, what that's going to look like. We're also looking with CVS, the council, and a number of other partners about how we can try and move forward discussions that we've been having for quite a while about a digital platform. That would be something that everybody in the district could use to, at a touch of a button, find out what services there are, what groups there are, how to access them, when they're on, how much, where they are, things like that. So basically the aims of ICCs is to work with partners to improve the health and well-being of our district in whatever way that is. And I suppose part of these, we have been having a number over the last few years of community conversations. So we're really glad to be part of this one with all the partners on board and all you that have attended it. And we can basically, we're quite a dynamic service. We can turn our hand to any project that the community feels is important to the community, and we can support it from a health and well-being perspective. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. And yeah, I'll share my details in the chat box now. So if you want to know more, just email me, that's fine. And I'll also share the presentation as well in the chat box, so you can see some more examples of what we've done pre-COVID. So hi, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. And I should stress that we kind of hurried a little bit to get this first meeting and to get a series of meetings happening over the summer. And you're hearing from a few people that have come together. Part of having these meetings is to connect with more people and involve more people in the evolving conversation program as we move beyond the summer. So if you're interested after tonight in being more active in maybe presenting in the future, please get in touch. It's already been mentioned that lots of conversations happen elsewhere in the district, and lots of organised, quite structured conversations have taken place within communities in recent years. And I'd like to sort of move on, I think, to Yak Patel, who's been involved in some of those conversations, but also give Yak an opportunity to say a little bit about the work that CVS has been doing to support community power and resilience through the COVID crisis. So over to you, Yak.
So yes, thank you, Alistair. So good evening, everyone. I think I've got one slide because it's much better than seeing my face. So just bear with me. I'm just going to just give you one. Yeah, so thank you. So my name is Yak Patel. I work for Lancaster District CVS, which is an organisation that supports voluntary community faith and social enterprise organisations across this district. And certainly I'm sat here as a proud Lancastrian as well, actually. Absolutely amazing what this district did over the last 4 months and beyond. It's been incredible. So we was at the forefront of recruiting volunteers right at the start of the pandemic. We've been a volunteer centre for over 20 years, but I've never seen the community sort of come out and galvanise in the way that I've seen over the last 4 months. We pretty much recruited roughly about 1,000 volunteers in 24 hours, coming from a whole range of backgrounds, and also have to add that lots of people and businesses donated so much money to ensure that charities that worked on the front line received that funding to continue their operations right at a community level, helping people that needed it. So yeah, I'll keep this brief, guys. And yeah, it's fair to say that early lockdown, the UK experienced a surge of volunteering, probably not seen since the Second World War. In Lancaster District, thousands of people signed up to charities and the NHS, hundreds more informally supporting vulnerable friends, neighbours, families, young people, and so much more. And I kind of guess in our communities right across this district, supported by the local businesses, fire, police, council, universities, our amazing local college, really came together in a way that I've never seen before. To really make sure that local people had food. We delivered hundreds of packages of food, medication, checking in on elderly people, checking in on our sort of like vulnerable residents as well. But volunteering really for me wasn't just about getting involved and just doing the big actions and committing loads of time. It was also little things that really encouraged others in moments of need. And it was those real acts of kindness that made a real difference to someone who was struggling. I think going forward, I think there's a real opportunity here for us all to shape a vision where everyone has an equal chance to lead a fulfilling life, where everyone shares the benefit of economic growth, and where everyone feels they can influence what happens in their life and communities. And we have a real opportunity here, I think, that we can nurture social cohesion. We're not the most diverse community and district, but we have a real opportunity for social cohesion, employment and skills, health and well-being, to build resilient communities, volunteering, voice and influence. And I think today is a real part of that, and or the start of it, in fact. And I kind of guess that from our perspective, and just working with all those kind of different partners, working right in the heart of the communities, we have what's called community action networks, CAN for short. And what's been born out of those kind of cans for sure is local people identifying what they need. It's their lived experience. You know, they're the experts. They know what they need. And what we do as colleagues and partners is support that change. If you want to get involved in that, then I'd love to hear from you. But I kind of guess that going forward, we're part of this big social movement now that can actually make Lancaster District a fantastic place for everyone to live and prosper. And I'll leave it there.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Do you want to unshare your screen?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you, Yak. Yeah, I should have said at the beginning, I mean, in terms of, I rattled through, I really did rattle through that plan 2030, and we can send it out to people and make sure everyone has a good chance to have a look at it. It is very much an early document, and it's a document that we want to, and I'm going to use the word co-produce with the community. We want to develop it. It's a plan 2030. We believe next year it'll be plan 2130, the year after that 2230. And running through that, we need to create spaces where we can come together to work on it together. So I've got on my list, I've got one more person who's just going to say a little bit about some of his organisation's work. I hope it's not going to come as a surprise to him. David, I think you volunteered, David Perez. But before I hand over to David, who's going to talk about the work of Beyond Imagination at the university and some community engagement in the past. What we're going to do after this is kind of hand the conversation over a little bit to other people who are on this call. I've got no idea how many participants are here, and I can't see the chat box. What I'd like you to do is, and I certainly know that many of you are involved in groups and organisations that are very much about supporting community power and resilience. So what I'd like you to do, if you're up for doing this, is just to indicate in the chat box that you'd like to share some of your work, some of your activity in the community. So you know, without being too distracted from what David is saying, if you could start putting in the chat box that you'd like to share. And then after David has finished talking about his work, I'm going to hand over to my team, whether that's Caroline, Kirsty or Jez, to invite people to join the conversation. So without further ado, over to you, David.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I also have a presentation, but while I share the presentation, I just want to say that's really motivating. Everything that the previous presenter has said is amazing. All the energy now, when this energy now is needed, right? So I'm going to share a little bit a different perspective. So we are not like the typical community organization, but we are the university. We are part of this community. And I'm going to talk a little bit about imagination at Lancaster. So that is the design research group that we have there. We don't do research locked in a room. We do research actually in the field. So that's why I would like to share a little bit more, because for us, academia is one thing, but engaging with you, engaging with the community is something that we have in the core. We have been doing this for several years already. So I'm going to share an experience of a previous project in which I participated. And later I will share what we are up to now and what we are planning to do in the future. Can you all see the slide that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see
yes. Great. So I'm going to talk about this project. It was the Leapfrog project. Some of you might know it. It was a research project using co-design. I read that someone was using already the concept of co-design. I'm very glad that it's a concept that is already utilized. Alistair was talking about co-production. They are all friends. They are all in the same family. So it's basically bringing people together to solve their own problems. Is making them design by themselves rather than designing for themselves. So it's not this kind of top-down approach. It's designing with communities. The approach that we have here in Lancaster is about community engagement. So what we understand by community engagement is to open up dialogues, and something that this is my trick in presentation. I like to pick up words from other presenters. It is something that, for instance, when Claire was talking about having this open conversation. So basically what we do here is try to encourage the open conversation and try to keep or to produce material to open up those conversations in a creative way. And because it's creative, we call it creative engagement, actually, very original. So we have been working from 2015 with a number of organizations, young people in care, librarians, museums. We also work with Morecambe Bay Clinical Commission Group last year, so some of you already participated with us. And we have a library of more than 80 tools. I'm going to explain what a tool is, available in leapfrog.tools. You can download it for free. So I'm going to explain what a tool is, what we understand by tools. So a tool is something that you can use, and this is my academic side, so you might pardon me. A tool is something that you can use to do something, right? So for instance, we normally use this example. You have a spanner, and a spanner is not just one thing. You can use a spanner to fix your sink, to assemble a chair, to install a washing machine. So we make those tools in collaboration with different people. And why we do this? Because again, we don't want this kind of top-down approach and trying to impose, for instance, a specific survey or a specific structure of an interview. We want a creative way for people to engage with their own communities. We have produced more than 80 tools. This is kind of overarching a bunch of icons with different tools that you can all find them in our website. And they have been downloaded actually all over the world. So it's amazing the impact that something that is produced here in our community in Lancaster has produced in all over the world. This is a kind of zoom in the UK. Obviously, we have a big node here in the Northwest. And we put those tools organized by different kind of themes / project that where those tools were produced. So for instance, last year we worked with people with lived experience with food poverty. So we have tools to open up conversation about food poverty. So basically, rather than to say about food poverty, it's about food, and then you can talk about other stuff. And those are stories that we captured during this project. It's amazing the involvement of people. So for instance, last year I had the opportunity to participate in a workshop in London, and we had some people with lived experience that participated in this work, in this project as well, talking about their involvement, talking about how empowered they feel of being able to produce tools or produce ways of engagement that are helping communities all over the UK. It's amazing. Young people also participating, young activists, we call them, and people with lived experience as well. So we have this I'm showing you with my finger, and probably you might not see that. On the bottom right, we have this conversation at the scale workshop that those are tools that we co-designed it with people from the community from Morecambe Bay Clinical Commissioning Group. Actually, Jack also contributed with one of these tools. If I'm not wrong, is the box, the mailbox that is in the top right corner of that toolbox. So I'm going to show a couple of tools just because I've been talking about tools and tools and tools, and I'm going to now to bring it down to the earth. So as I was saying, these are tools that are being co-designed with real people. So for instance, this is an example. This is one of the most popular tools that we have, target control. And this is kind of the type of activity that we do. So in here, Ben, who is one of our collaborators, non-academic, was working with young people at the time. So we have, for instance, this tool that is a very simple series of concentric circles in which you can use in different ways. So for instance, if you see, you can obviously put the most important thing in the middle and the less important thing on the on the exterior, but you can also divide the circle in different ways. So the idea is that this tool, you can use this tool in various different ways. They are flexible. They are all in PDF in our website. You can download them, and you can also edit the text that they have there. So the idea is to open up different type of conversation. A powerful example is this tool. This is an adaptation of this tool that a social worker was somehow related. It was working with in a case of a little girl that unfortunately lost her parents. So there were many people interested in taking care of her, in getting the custody, and obviously most of them relatives. There was a group, I think they were the uncles, that they were very interested in getting her, and they were saying, no, we have been taking care of her a lot. So this social worker used this tool in a very creative way, using this little character to open this conversation with a little girl, and ask her, okay, who is the person that you get in touch more, or you like more, using kind of very easy words for her. So she was identified, okay, my grandfather take me to the park, I don't know, the teacher, she always asks me how I am. And the social worker realized that those relatives who were asking for the custody were not in the map. So basically, they were not being in touch with her as they were saying. So it was a really, really kind of impactful when we saw that, that somehow using a different way to approach people somehow open up this conversation that sometimes are locked because of languages. Imagine if you are, for instance, working with people that not speak English as a first language, as myself. You can also get improve those engagement using these creative approaches. This is another tool, and this is just to take this approach to another extreme. So within organization, we normally in big organization, for instance, like a hospital, the NHS, this project was in collaboration with the Blackpool Victoria Hospital. So how the information flows, and how all the engagement initiatives, somehow the insight that you get there moved across the different departments. So they created this tool that basically is to have a sort of map of the different processes that were behind of the organization, and also to identify the different problems that they were having in this kind of communication flow. So they created this tool. It's a very simple tool. Basically, it's making some icons in here that you can use them to map how you see your organization. And for instance, you can also identify some loopholes. It's like, I've been producing this document over and over again, and I really have no idea where it ends up. So it's also another way to engage within the organization, this approach. So these are just two tools that I just wanted to show the different type of thing that we have been doing during this time. But now I also wanted to talk to you about our present. So as you have seen maybe in the first slide, this is the logo of Imagination Lancaster. So last year we got an amazing grant, 13 million pounds, to go beyond. So this is the project in which I'm part of, and I'm lucky that I got the opportunity now to work as a lecturer in radical co-design. So now the department itself has a structure. So it's not just a bunch of design researchers. We have different clusters and themes that we focus on. So we have home and living, community and public sector, factory and workplace, city and urban, population and policy, crossed by 4 themes: health, sustainability, international, and prosperity. So this fund allows us to grow. Actually, we have 10 new lecturers, 10 research associates and 10 new PhD students. You can play where is Wally here, so you might find me if you want in the photo. I'm going to give you a little help. So this is our team. This is where I'm based now. So I was saying that I was working in that Leapfrog project. Now this is my new home, community and public sector. So we have Miriam, who works in participatory architecture. In my case, I'm working in radical co-design, very interested in creative engagement with the public sector and communities. Rosendi, and we have our leader here is Professor Leo Cruikshank, professor in design and creative exchange. I'm going to show you a couple of things that we have been doing during the last month. So this is a project that, because of the COVID, there are many kids isolated, kids that don't have access to internet, and they are at home locked. So what we did was to bring researchers from the university to open up the conversation, asking for some ideas of how we can keep these children entertained, having fun, but at the same time learning. So we got in touch also with some local school here, and we created this kind of toolbox, as you see in the bottom left, with different type of material that they can use to explore the creativity. And at the same time, we created a set of posters based on ideas from different researchers from the university with some prompts, and prompts that are really open, like, for instance, create a box, a robot, sorry. We are not saying, okay, how you are going to create the robot or build a city. We are not saying how, maybe, and with the graphic here, we are saying, okay, maybe you can use a bottle, maybe you can do something here and there. And it has, this project is coronavirus time. So it's not older than 2 months, maybe. We delivered the first boxes a couple of weeks ago, and we have received a fantastic feedback from the schools. They said that children really love this project, and we are considering to keep going with this initiative maybe for the coming years. And we just heard this week that it was nominated for an award about inclusivity during this time. So it's amazing. And this is a good way to show how the university also connect with the communities. This is another project that we are about to start, working with Mainway Lancaster. There is a redevelopment project, and we are going to support the Lancaster City Council and also the community to engage in this project, to listen the community and make to connect the city council with or get the city council with the local community closer to generate this project collaboratively. So as you might see now, the scale of our research somehow it has expanded a lot. So thinking about one specific child isolated without internet in a house to an entire neighborhood. So yeah, this is what I wanted to share today. This is well, that's my email. If you can find all the tools that I was talking before in leapfrog.tools. I'm really happy to be part of the community and also to contribute with whatever idea you might have, or that maybe we can support you as well. And that's for now, Alistair.
Thank you very much, David. That's great. I didn't say in the introduction that these are conversations that we want to have around well-being as an overarching theme, and around strengths. I'm very much a proponent of asset-based community development. We have enormous strengths and assets in the Lancaster district, Lancaster, Morecambe, in the rural area, and what COVID has done is illuminated more of that. So it'd be really great to work with Beyond Imagination and connect you with community. So thank you very, very much. I'm not quite sure who I'm going to hand over now. It's one of the team who can see the chat. So I don't know whether that's Jez or Caroline or Kirsty, but I want to hand over and give other people now the opportunity to share what they've been doing to support community power and resilience. So which one of the teams is going to take over, Jez?
A number of the folks have posted in the chat saying they'd like to share some stuff, so we wanted to create some space for that. So we've got a bit of a list going on. Michael Hallam, did you want to share briefly some thoughts, just going in the order in which people have posted, I think?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my screen camera to work. There we go, I think. Yeah, just briefly, I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time in various Zoom meetings with local businesses over the last 3 months, and there's been two main things that the conversation's been going really. One is just how businesses stay afloat at the moment and how businesses support each other, and then the other conversation has been about how we can build, how businesses can contribute to build back better. And as I'm sure a lot of people have been discovering through the magic of Zoom, you can actually be in lots of different meetings with people all over the world, all over the country. So that's been going on as well. So I think the business community in Lancaster is fairly enlightened generally. They're all kind of small businesses or micro businesses or sole traders. And there's a lot of potential there for putting resources in, aligning agendas with what local businesses are doing. And I was in a meeting, the Institute of Directors for the Northwest of England earlier in the week, and it was about sustainability. It was about how business rises to the challenge of tackling the climate emergency. And there's some fairly medium-sized businesses that are taking that deadly seriously. So I just wanted to share that really. It's a very important sector, a very important group to get on board. I've done. I don't know. Is anybody there?
Thank you, Michael. I think we're just confused as to who should respond. It's over to you, Jez. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, no problem at all. So just, yeah, again, taking it in the order in the chat box. Sarah Drake, you posted that you wanted to share. I know you shared some details with me earlier about the work that you're involved in. So Sarah, over to you. There you go. We've got you.
Sorry. Yeah, hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm Sarah Drake. I am the Engagement and Development Officer for Cancer Care. We obviously cover Lancaster, Kendal and Barrow and all the bits in between. So obviously our centres have had to shut at the moment for the public, but we still needed to support people who are living with a cancer diagnosis and their families. So we continue to do online therapies, distance therapies such as counselling, mindfulness. We've even done distance Reiki and yoga. We've still been able to take on new referrals, and we realised that we needed to extend our services to be able to sort of stand up and really help people that needed it the most right now. So our bereavement service was opened up to be able to cover anybody affected by a bereavement of any type during this current situation. And also our counselling services were extended to NHS frontline staff, care home workers and domiciliary carers. And obviously we're still working very, very closely with our therapists, and we've got really great feedback on the kind of remote therapies being really successful, because obviously we didn't know it would be. We gave it our shot and it's worked out really well. We've also created a helpline which is manned 9 to 5 days a week. So we can signpost, even if it's not something Cancer Care can deal with directly, we can certainly signpost people to it, so they're not just sort of stabbing in the dark with wondering where to go and who they can ask for help. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been up to. We've also been working closely with all 3 hospitals in our footprint, and we've created a medication delivery service for cancer patients who are still shielding or in active treatment, and we've been delivering sort of chemotherapy tablets and painkillers and essential items for them as well. So even though we're not open as yet, we're working really hard to get our centres you know, in a position where we can get people through the door. But obviously we're dealing with a very vulnerable sector of the community, so you know, we've got to just make sure we've got it all right, so that everybody's you know, safe, both the clients coming in and the staff and the therapists. So that was it really. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's back to you, Jez.
Yeah, no problem. Dan, we've got next.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me all right? Am I coming through?
Yeah.
Grand. So my name's Dan Knowles, and I am currently working on behalf of Lancashire County Council on a project called Fraser House, which is the creation of a digital and tech and innovation hub at White Cross. It's one of the old mill buildings that's being repurposed for a very sort of modern workspace to support innovation and the digital and tech ecosystem, a space really for new start businesses to come together, like-minded people to work, to grow and develop new businesses. And it's an incredibly important project, I think, in terms of recovery and resilience for just really the impact it can have on the city region, and a real kind of beacon of hope for how we can support businesses to get up and running and to create jobs and to grow and to impact the wider community. So it's a bit of a signature project. I'm interested in all this sort of stuff because I think it's going to be a really important node for how we sort of distribute some of the messages of health and well-being amongst the workforce, a growing workforce, how we connect the city vitally to the university, the research that happens up there around digital and tech, how we bring some of those businesses from campus into town and connect that story. So thanks very much for kind of allowing us to be on this call, allowing me to be here. Really interested in anything around kind of supporting the skills agenda in the region for digital and tech. There is obviously an evolving space conversation around kind of White Cross, what that's used for, what the wider sort of city centre area, Canal Quarter in the future will look like. We've had commercial landlords getting in touch asking about opportunities potentially to repurpose premises for community hubs, again around digital and tech and co-working. So I've put a link into LinkedIn in there, but anyone who wants to kind of discuss this further, I've nothing kind of to divulge, share slides or anything at the moment, but anyone who kind of wants to talk further about digital and tech, about startup businesses and about that kind of that ecosystem, then please by all means drop us a line and get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Jenny's up next.
Hello, can you hear me, see me?
Yep, we can see you, Jen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So thanks for this opportunity. I'll try and keep things brief. But I'm Jenny Natouche. I'm the founder of a new charity for young people aged 11 to 18 for the Lancaster and Morecambe area to try and give them more to do outside of school, because there's not really anything very much for them to do, and there's nowhere for them to go other than McDonald's. There's obviously a few great things happening, but there are 12,500 young people in the district, and we're trying to give maximum opportunities for them, and we're trying to basically you know, this is really a lost generation. They're even more lost at the moment. We're all inclusive, so we're the hard to reach communities, the disadvantaged and vulnerable, but we're for everybody. Proving to be very difficult to find funding for all-inclusive youth provision, because central government's pot of money for youth provision, 95% of it goes to one organisation, NCS. So that's quite a challenge for us, finding funding, but the demand for this is so great. But what's really encouraging is that the supply of goodwill here in our community is also enormous. So what we're trying to do really is just collaborate with creative practitioners on the local high street in Lancaster and Morecambe, and local creative organisations that are already in existence. And we're trying to just sort of pull people together a bit to wrap our arms around these young people, to give them more of a sense of belonging here, and give them that sense of connection to people and place, and to give them a feeling of purpose and to help them find their passion. So what have we done so far? We've done a couple of pilots. We've tested out about 35 ideas, different ideas in 2 different pilots. And the feedback has been amazing. We've got an impact film already that's on our website, that I'll put in the link in a minute. We are basically next year, we've got the funding, most of the funding, to do a green festival. I'm actually speaking to you from a hotel room at the Eden project at the minute, because I'm down here researching for the green festival next year, because we really want to give young people an opportunity to really, that they're fearful about what's going to happen to the planet, and we want to give them a conduit, really, somewhere to put some of that energy, and we want to provide them with opportunities so they can actually make a difference in the community, as well as making friends and, you know, making things, learning new skills. It's stuff for their CVs, it's, you know, it's many things, and in the end we hope to build this culture of compassion. Everything we do also benefits either the sick or the elderly or the young or the environment. So everything has been designed with a lot of love and a lot of care, so they feel this maximum feeling of fulfillment and like they've really got a purpose here. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do. And if you want to hear some more, I'll put the link in. Well, we're getting interest as well from Barrow, from Kendal, from Fleetwood, from Bristol. We've had inquiries from all over the place, but we're kind of saying, well, hang on a minute, we're only very young ourselves, we're not established yet here in the area, but maybe if we sort out our brand model methodology, it's something that we could package up and hand over if and when we feel ready to other communities to share it that way. So it's potentially really quite exciting. We've got the backing of the NHS, who are saying this is about the prevention of mental health problems in young people. This is about well-being. I've spoken to David, and I've had conversations with the other people at the university that are going to help us, going to try and help us see if we can prove that this is doing that. Yeah, so it's all, there's lots of very potentially exciting things happening, and Dame Sue Black is our patron, which has been amazing. Yeah, but we're still only very small with no money. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jenny. Back to you, Jez.
Yeah, thanks. We've got Dave Hyman and Anna Clayton after that.
The camera's on, is that? I mean,
We've got you, Dave.
I was just seeing all people's initials, and I didn't know it was on there. Hi everyone. Yeah, it's really glad to be here, really, and involved in this, because anything that says community, and I'm there really, and I want to be involved in it, because community is the foundation, really, of any of well-being and people and having sustainability, because it all needs to happen in the community and community involvement. So I'm also glad to represent the Well, and the Well is a lived experience organisation. So everyone at the Well has got lived experience of multiple disadvantages, from homelessness to mental health, from addiction, alcoholism, and trauma, family members. So it's really good to have that representation here. I'm the founder and chief exec of the Well Communities, and we have contracts in running across Morecambe Bay and North Lancashire, Central Lancashire, and into Liverpool. But what we do here, we work with CGL, which is a substance misuse provider, across North and Central Lancashire, working with people with severe alcohol and drug problems. So we're working with a cohort of drug-related death, meaning so CGL have identified a way of identifying the next likely people to die in services, sadly, and what the Well does, we wrap around these guys and start working with them and trying to improve their health. So it's not about saying, let's get you into recovery, let's get you into abstinence. It's about being where they're at. We'll also work with CGL in terms of the recovery end. So that's the front end of the service. We also work on the exit, which is really important. That's based in the heart of the community. So we work in the community supporting people. We work with the CCG, NHS in Lancaster Hospital with people with dual diagnosis. So we go in the hospital and do wards walk rounds and pick people up there, using that lived experience to support them and integrate them and introduce people to what a community is, because some of the cohorts of people we work with don't even know what a community looks like or what it is, because their community has been drink, drugs and prison. So we introducing them to a new community. We work with the Police and Crime Commissioner, working with offenders. But all our services had to radically change in COVID-19. So we transformed all our services to have a 7-day-a-week service, a digital service, and we responded really quickly. And I think as a community organisation, as a lived experience organisation, I think we have less red tape, if you will, in order to move really quickly. And that's the benefit of having a lived experience organisation, a community organisation, because we quickly moved all our services online, and we have provided a 7-day-a-week service. From we have a physical food club, so we still wanted to provide that service in the community for people in poverty. So every Friday, we still provided free food for people. But some of the things we have online 7 days a week is we have an eating disorder group, we have family support group, we have an addiction and alcohol support group for people that are still in the grips of addiction and people that are in abstinence. We had supporting activities, so sporting activities, so people were getting in chair-based exercise, mega fit. So we ran, that runs 7 days a week, and we still have our hub. So the physical hub we had on a Saturday, we have a virtual hub where families and the community come together and engage and just have an opportunity to connect online. And I think with the lockdown, I think there's some really good positives to come out of it, because our services massively increased with the number of people needing support, because there's a number of people isolated out there and are reluctant to come into services, reluctant to engage in community groups because of fear and anxiety and the mental health. So we provided a service, online service for them guys. So now we have a service for almost everyone can actually access and gain that support. Even post-lockdown, we will maintain some of these online digital supports, because it's vital for them people that are really isolated. We've also, you know, working with Caroline and Joanne from the council, and looking at, you know, an alternative supported accommodation for Lancaster and Morecambe. So we're really excited about that, and that's progressing really well. And one of the other things I've been personally involved in, what I'm really proud of, is we've had live conversations every Friday at 12 o'clock. It was every Friday initially for the first 6 to 8 weeks, and now we've gone to twice a month, having live conversation with key strategic people to be able to talk about some of the difficulties of COVID-19. So we've had the Director of Population Health on, Andy Knox. We've had the Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire and Cumbria on, talking about the restrictions and talking about the difficulties of policing in this lockdown, especially with county lines and the drug supplying, and talking about that. But also, what's really on my heart lately is trauma. And looking at trauma, just last week we had Director of Population Health, and again Andy Knox. We had Professor David Best, Jackie Johnson, a psychotherapist, and Damien Grainer, talking about trauma and addiction and recovery, and the links from trauma, poverty, and addiction, and the links between that, and what's come out of that. I think me and Andy were talking afterwards about how we look at services now, and we really feel that services need to have a review of how we're dealing with people, because if that's the foundation of what drives people's lives, this trauma, we need to go beyond trauma informed. We need to be more than just trauma informed and how to work with people. We need specialist service for people that have been through adverse childhood experiences. But as I say, it's great to be here, guys. It's great to be involved in this, and really keen to help push this, and especially bringing that lived experience to any design and delivery of services in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Anna, did you want to share as well? I'm aware. Alistair, just any thoughts from yourself as host? We want to make sure that everyone's got an opportunity to share, but equally time's going beyond us. I know folks will have to leave. This is just the start of the conversation, and we'll be having future sessions at which we'd of course really welcome you to as well. But Alistair, any thoughts on how we take things forward from just now? I'm not sure if we've got Alistair just now, but Anna, if you would like to share something about your work as well, that'd be great.
I was thinking there were so many others that I feel that Dave was a great end, so I won't say anything now. I'll wait until a future meeting, just to keep to time.
No problem at all. Thank you, Anna. As I say, this is very much the start of the conversation, and future sessions. We'd love you to join and to contribute. We had Lucy that had suggested that she might want to share something. We also had Sarah Bainbridge and Mark Bartlett as well. And so Lucy, did you want to briefly share anything with us at all? We can of course also circulate information to participants as well after the meeting as well. So if there are messages you want to promote, etc., then we're very happy to do that too.
Hello, Jez. I got knocked out. I'm back.
I think Lucy had to leave. So is Sarah there? Mark Bartlett, do you want to come on?
I'm happy to share another time.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Kirsty and Jez. I'll be very quick, so I realise I've pushed for time. Just to say, following Storm Desmond, we established about 15 community emergency groups here who've really come to the fore in this crisis. But they were dealing with things beforehand, power cuts in the community, flooding, things like that. What I'd like to do, if any group is interested, is talk to those groups that have been established for COVID and see if they'd like to think about staying on, as it were, and looking at other emergencies. I'll put my details in the chat box as to how to get in touch. And there's a lot of support out there for any groups who are interested in getting something like that established. And I'd love to talk to them offline. It's too much to mention now, but we'll do that. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mark. Alistair, any thoughts?
Given that I've just been knocked out of this call for the last 10 minutes and I've just arrived, what was the bit before the any thoughts? Hello?
Just about wrapping things up and where we go from here, I think.
Right, okay, sorry. Yeah, where we go from here is that we have another 2 meetings over the summer, and we're very keen to talk to people about how we deliver those meetings. The next meeting on the 20th of August is entitled Our Wellbeing District Lessons from Communities. And I mentioned, a couple of other people mentioned earlier on that there've been a number of people, Yak and Andy Knox and Sarah, various people from various parts of the community that have been engaged in the art of conversation, the big conversation, there was the love events. So there have been quite a few community conversations in recent years. And I think people might correct me and tell me that it's a bad idea, that it might be useful in the next meeting in August to give some time to people who participated in those conversations and to share some of the learning from those conversations. So that's certainly something I think it would be really interesting to hear from people who would like to share some of their experience. And then in September, on the 17th of September, we have a working title, Building Our Wellbeing Wealth, an exploration of community wealth building and well-being. I think Stephanie Riches was on the call. I don't know, I couldn't see who was on the call, but I think she was here from the Northern People's Powerhouse, and she's certainly interested in participating. Outside of that, we're really keen to hear from people about where they're having community conversations within their organizations, within their communities, and continue to map the conversations and the activity that's happening in the district, and look at how we can support pulling key messages and key themes together to support well-being. And I kind of, it's 8 o'clock, I kind of like to from my perspective, just say something that I wanted to say at the beginning, but I was flustered and in a bit of a state because I was thrown by the lack of chat and not being able to see people. When we had our first wellbeing advisory groups, we really focused on the 5 ways to well-being, and probably a lot of people on this call will have heard that. I mean, this goes back research, national research, that whoever you are, there are 5 core ways that we develop our well-being, and that's being active, learning, taking notice, connecting and giving. And during the COVID crisis, we've seen lots of that. Maybe not so much taking notice, maybe, I don't know, people may be locked in lockdown, perhaps they've been meditating, but we've seen lots of those other things, that connecting, that giving, and people doing things. But the reality is, for lots of people in the district, it has not been a time of expansion of well-being. It's been a time of great anxiety. Beyond COVID and the medical issues, we've got a looming economic crisis, we've got a looming unemployment crisis. Behind that, and I mumbled about the climate emergency, we have a climate emergency that's going away. I can see in my own children and their peers, and it's something that me and Jenny talked about recently, rising anxiety amongst young people. And there are lots of people that are not connecting and learning and getting the opportunity to give and take notice and be active. So where we go from here, I think, to try and support as many conversations as we can, to use these 3 conversations, and tonight, with some learning from tonight about how we manage this and whether we use breakout rooms, but to use the series that we've got, the meeting in August, the meeting in September, to kind of focus our minds around that sort of discussion as to how we can, and I'll go back to where I started, build a plan 2030 for the district that is focused on supporting a safe, sustainable and socially just district. That's where I think we go from there, to keep talking to each other, to keep learning from each other and connecting with each other. Will that do, Jez?
I think so.
Okay. Is there anything anyone else wants to say before we finish?
Just that it's Claire here. It's been absolutely amazing to hear all of the things that have been happening out there in the community, and it just shows that the community is mobilised and there's great stuff going on out there. So yeah, it's been good to hear and celebrate that.
We live within, oops, I'm echoing now. We live within an abundant community. Go back to asset-based community development. We just need to make it more visible. So thank you very much to everybody. I'm sorry for me, the last 10 minutes I wasn't here. I was desperately trying to get back here. Let's talk in the meantime, and let's come together in August. But let's look at what we can do to make that abundance visible and build community and well-being in our district. So good night. And stay safe, and no doubt we will see each other soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.